Yo, what's good, everybody? What's good on this Sunday after a tough loss to the Oregon Ducks in Autzen Stadium? I've been looking forward to talking to y'all despite the saltiness and the doomy and gloomy and the sky is falling and the sting of a loss. Me and Funky have been looking forward to hollering at y'all because it's go Bucks regardless. However, we're going to talk about this game. We're going to talk about our thoughts. We're going to talk about going forward, overall perspective, big picture, all of that stuff. We're going to hit on all of that. But I just wanted to just really just jump out the gate and get into it because, this show goes fast. And so we want to make sure we touch on some things. What's up, everybody in the chat? Bray Sims, my brother. What's up, family? Tommy Wagner, Larry Daniels, Karis Washington. Where's everybody? Oh, Stilly Matt. There he is. What's up, brother? Appreciate you. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much. Let's get into it. Funky, first of all, we missed you, brother. Glad to have you back, man. Glad to have you back. I flew solo last time, but it was cool. But I'm glad I got you back for this reaction, man. How you feeling?
Yeah, no, I'm very excited to be back. Sorry, I missed last week, some plans, but totally excited to be back. And obviously, not feeling as positive and as great as I usually do, B Moses. But hey, it happens. This is just the new era of college football. Teams aren't going to go undefeated anymore. I'll go out on a limb and say there's not going to be an undefeated team by the end of the regular season. Teams are going to lose. Teams are probably going to lose multiple times, and that's just something we're going to have to deal with and have to just really just suck it up and deal with the punches and just on to the next week, since we're going to have redemption in a couple weeks here. And it's not time to overreact now, but if we look worse or the same versus Penn State that we did Oregon and we keep letting up these explosive plays, then that'll be times for worry and struggle, and even more like worry. That'd be times for a proper overreaction. But nowadays, we lose once, let's go on to the next. Let's win out the rest of the regular season. Let's beat Michigan, and hey, we'll get a rematch with them in 11-1 in the conference championship. So obviously, not the best Sunday, but at least the Indians won, so we get that a little bit. So that took away a little bit of the burn. Because we're being real, that was a real elimination game. That's a real win or go home game that they just won there. So the Buckeyes game, was it really win or go home? No, not the 12-team playoffs. We could lose 2-3 times and still have a chance to win a national title. So let's just be great. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I was a Will Howard supporter since day one. And yeah, it's on to a new week. We have the Michigan-Illinois. So now another week where Michigan can lose. They can't run from the bye week this week. This is the best week the Michigan fans had for a while, since they didn't get to watch themselves play, which for them was a win in itself.
That's funny. Yeah. No, I mean that's a great welcome back intro, man. Absolutely. And we're gonna get more into the perspective of things and the outlook of things, but I definitely got some thoughts. I got some bars and some thoughts for y'all, for some of our fans and all of that. I got to. But we can talk about the specifics of the game in the chat. If there's something, obviously super chats. If you have a question, if you want us to address a certain thing, hit us with the super chat. We'll respond. But yeah, so I mean, lots of different things with this game that we can touch on. I'll say, let's start. You mentioned Will Howard. I'll start with Will Howard. Okay. And then we can kind of fill in the blanks as far as the things that happen in the game, some controversial calls, some game-changing plays, stuff like that. But excuse me. So Kyle Lamb on Twitter, really analytical guy, really good with analytics and stats. He said Will Howard's line last night versus number 3 Oregon, 28 for 35, 80%, 326 yards, 2 TDs, 0 picks, 10.5 yards per average, 177.7 QB rating.
Wow.
I'm sorry, rating 93.4 QBR. Since 1998 and 57 games for OSU QBs versus top 10 opponents, that's 4th best for completion, 8 of 57 in QBR, 9 for 57 in rating, and 12 for 57 adjusted yards per attempt. The point is, it was a really, 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 really good performance. But yet you have people all over social media, mainly Buckeye fans, saying he's trash and he sucks and Kyle McCord is better. So, stuff like that just annoys my soul because yes, we can talk about that last play and the wonkiness that led up to him taking off and running. We're going to get into that. Um, yeah, but looking at how he played overall for the Will Howard haters, it's like the dude had a phenomenal game. He played very well. And so it's frustrating. I know for him playing as well as he did for the game to end like it did was heartbreaking. But that kid, I saw him out there in that final drive, clapping it up and looked unfazed. I mean, he handled himself as a great quarterback and a leader on that field the entire game. And so the way that it ended was very unfortunate. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that before we got into the specifics of the game. Is Will Howard is still my quarterback. I still rock with Will, and that performance he put on is why.
Yeah, absolutely, B Moses. The big things that are the big plays that I was like, wow, thank God we have a quarterback like Will Howard leading our team this year was that red zone touchdown pass to J.J. Smith, where Will got out of the pocket, made a guy miss on the end, and was able to get there, find J.J. in the end zone. I was like, that would have been a sack last year. And even with CJ at quarterback, that's sometimes a sack because Will. There were so many times yesterday where a defensive end or a linebacker went untouched on the end, and Will Howard, instead of taking the sack going down, was able to make a move and get outside the pocket and try to find someone, even if that just meant he
Yeah.
just threw it away. And in the red zone, the read option was deadly, and yeah, I mean, we I not that I hate taking a victory lap after a loss like that, but wow, anyone who hated Will Howard before this game, I mean, there's nothing. Will Howard deserves more now to be a Heisman frontrunner than he ever has before this game because he really showed up when it mattered most. He was the best player for the Buckeyes today. Yeah, I think easily. I mean, right? I mean, was it him
Yeah.
or Emeka or JJ? I think it was clearly Will Howard was the best
Yeah.
player for the Buckeyes yesterday. And if he goes down a half a second sooner and we get the timeout off and we win that game on a field goal, then Will Howard will wake up today and he'd be the Heisman frontrunner. So it's just a game of inches, and that stuff happens. But yeah, like you said, let's just get into this game. Just game talk.
Yeah, nah, for real. I mean, and we're going to talk about. I see the chat. We're going to talk about the defense, and we're going to talk about Denzel Burke. Trust me, we will. But speaking of Will, so yeah, so even leading up to that, there was some confusion. Now watching the game, you know how with some of the rule books, some of the rules in the rule book, they get changed, they get updated. But initially, after the OPI penalty, that was very questionable because you see that all the time. You see guys hand fighting at the top of the route, and a receiver, if the DB is being physical with them, they can push off to be physical as well and disengage. We see that all the time, and a lot of times it's not called. So to me, that was kind of eh. But with that said, I was one of the ones who would thought the clock was going to stop after the penalty. So they said on the broadcast that Coach Day and the coaches was like, "Hold on, what's going on? Well, why isn't the clock stopping?" Even the coaches who who should know more than we do, thought the clock would stop after that penalty. So there was some wonkiness with that right there. So basically, what I'm saying is, it wasn't just Ryan Day who thought the clock should have stopped. There were multiple people across social media and from every fan base who thought the clock would have stopped based on what we thought how the rule was interpreted. So anyway, I'm saying that to say that was just led to the series of what ensued from that, which was just like, first of all, I saw the screenshot of Will Howard's butt on the turf at the one with the 1 second still left on the clock. Unfortunate, because that's all we needed. And I see what he was trying to do. He kept saying he was being told they needed 15 yards to get in field goal range. So at that point, he's like, shoot, I need to take off and try to get and slide as close as I can within our kicker's range. That's what he was thinking in his mind. It just didn't work out, man. It didn't work out. But very frustrating. Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff that happened before that we could talk about. But I wanted to lead with Will and just say, listen, tough game. Yeah, maybe he could have handled things better in the end. It was a lot going on, but I'm not jumping off the wagon based off of that one play where there was a lot more that led up to that situation and just disregard his performance. He played he played at a playoff level. And so I just wanted to say that. You got anything funk before we start hitting on other stuff in the game?
I mean, can I talk about I mean, we're going to talk about that end of the game sequence. None of that would happen if they don't call that offensive pass interference on J.J. Smith. I thought that was frankly a ridiculous call to make at that time of the field. And even watching the replays of it, you can see the cornerback easily engage with both of his hands on JJ, and JJ's had a perfect release on him. Was it physical? Yes. Does it happen every single time? Yes. Did that happen literally 2 plays prior where the defensive back was pulling down a Mecca? Yes. But I thought it was physical play, and that's how they're playing all night on both sides of the balls. And all of a sudden, with 20 seconds on the clock left, they decided to make that call. Because even if that's just an incomplete pass and the Buckeyes stay where they are, that's field goal range. So we didn't even need to pass there, really. They could have ran the ball once, called a timeout the second left, and try to kick a field goal from there. But then that would be too. I mean, then that gives me flashbacks to the Georgia game. So Brian Day was trying to be more aggressive, and that stuff happens. But I mean, to translate to that, I think Ryan Day's play calling, or not Ryan Day's. I mean, who decides to go for it in 4th and 1 and 2? Is that Ryan Day or is that Chip Kelly? Or is that just a mix of both of them, B.
Probably
Moses?
a mix of both. I mean, I'm sure he signs off on it.
Yeah,
Um,
because I mean, whatever we did yesterday was great. That aggressiveness, even one of the play calls, it was like on our own 45. It was like 2 yards or something, like a yard and a half on our own 45, and we went for it, and we did that. I'm kind of even forgetting what it was really, but it was. I remember saying that. I'm like, wow, that was kind of shocking because that's not the Ryan Day I knew. I would have sworn we would have punted it, but hey, they went for it and it worked out. And hey, good for them. We have one of the best offenses in the whole entire college football. So I like betting on our guys in that situation. And I think offensively, there really wasn't much we could have done yesterday, besides for obviously that fumble Quinshawn.
yeah. So I'm looking at the chat, and the chat is hilarious. It's again. I'm gonna get at y'all in a little bit about talking about how fans are just according to these guys, everything is perfectly fine. No, that's not what we're saying. We're going to get into that, but you got these negative fans who the fans who they thrive off of negativity. It doesn't matter what's happening. It don't matter how good it is. It don't matter. It's always going to be negative slanted, and they just can't wait to dance in the negativity. But when something good happens, it's crickets. It's those fans. And then when you actually point out facts and logic and the fact that we lost by 1 point on the road to the number 3 team in the country, and it's a 12-team playoff, and we still have all of our goals in front of us, then we're sunshine pumpers and nothing's wrong. Like, stop it, man. We're going to get into that. I just had to give you a little snippet, but it's just stupid. It's stupid. And you're not objective. You're trying to act like you're objective and we're the one that's delusional. No, we're not. We see the bigger picture because we're not speaking with just straight pain and emotion and butt hurt. We've seen this college football game for way too many years. So if we're not jumping off the ledge and saying fire everybody, that doesn't mean we're putting our head in the sand. That means we're the realist. You feel me? And we're going to get into that. But let's go back to a couple more plays. The onside kick / was it a squib / why didn't we recover it, whatever. So that play, I know there was some debate. Like even Kirk and Nevada on the board had differing things to say. So I know Kirk was saying that Lanning in the press conference said that it was purposely called as an onside kick.
Yeah,
But
no way.
but then Nevada said that the actual kicker, I guess he was interviewed post game, and he said it was a squib, like it wasn't meant to be an onside kick. It just hit the player. So I don't know. Maybe Lanning was just trying to, act like he was being a genius. Either way, that was a huge that stole a huge possession. That was crazy. If he called that, then great call by Lanning. And I said it during the game with my dude Nigel watching the game. And I was like, man, I got to tip my cap to him. If he called that, that was a great call. And we have to be prepared. You as the front man, that you have to prepare as if it's going to be an onside kick every single time. And they caught us slipping, period. So hats off to them for that play.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think that was a mistake. Like, I don't think the kicker meant to do that because I think there's just so many things that can go wrong in that situation. And even just watching the replay, it seemed like his, I mean, or maybe he disguised it perfectly because from what it seemed to me, it looked like the same exact thing that he did other times, but the ball just hit the side of his foot and kind of shanked. So, uh, I think, but that's just the kind of stuff that happens in college football, and that's stuff that we talked about on the board a lot. And the big keys to the games, at least that I was going to bring up, was we can't let Oregon get the explosive play, and we can't lose the turnover battle by 2 or more. That's what I said. I said we can lose it 1-0, but once you lose it 2-0, then uh, it's the that's you. I don't the stats on losing a turnover battle by 2 or more on the road, like you don't win those games ever, like
Right.
ever, like, and especially when you're playing against a team that played. Dylan Gabriel played an amazing game. He was great yesterday. He was, and I've been a big hater on Dylan Gabriel, but he played amazing yesterday. He was fantastic. Those wide receivers stepped up, or especially Evan Stewart. Evan Stewart's been quiet all year, and he really stepped up yesterday. And Jim Knowles thought Denzel Burke could do his thing and cover. We thought our best cornerback can guard their second or third best wide receiver one on one, and he couldn't do it yesterday. Couldn't do it. Is that Denzel Burke's fault? Maybe. Is that Jim Knowles' fault? Maybe. Maybe after the first time that Jim Knowles has to realize something and give him more safety help, roll over the coverage a little bit, but then you leave Tez Johnson wide open. But we shut down Tez Johnson for the majority of the game. So it's just really hard for me to. The one thing I will totally give Jim Knowles the blame for is we got no pressure yesterday, B. Moses. It seemed
Yeah.
like Dylan Gabriel had 6-7 seconds, no matter what we were doing. Seemed like he was just running free, and even our blitzes seemed like they weren't hitting. So I'm not a defensive coordinator, never claimed to be a defensive coordinator, so I don't really know what the issue is with there, because you could blame Denzel Burke all you want, but if you give the guy 6-7 seconds to throw, it's so much harder to play cornerback than it is. And so I'm not sure what has to change, but I'm sure Jim Knowles knows this. But that's why it's almost good that we lost this game, B. Moses. Because if we win, maybe that gets thrown under the rug. Maybe people are a little happier. Maybe the players are going out today, and we go out Sunday and we'll probably be ranked number 1 in the country. And you saw what happened in Alabama. They beat Georgia in a miracle game where we sat here and told you the next day, hey, Bama looked really beatable. Like that second half Bama team looked horrible. We don't know what that was. And the next week they go out there and lose to Vanderbilt. So if we
Yeah.
didn't lose this game, we were probably going to lose the next game because we showed major flaws, and it's going to come back and bite us. So might as well do it now than later on in the year.
Right. And what did we say leading up to this game? We kept saying,
Mhm.
if we play clean, if we don't make a ton of mistakes on the road in Autzen Stadium, we should win this game. We lost the turnover battle 2-0. Multiple false starts. We made mistakes that end up costing us to the point we still had a chance to win that game
Mhm.
in the last seconds. And we came up short. But that's why you can't make those crucial mistakes on the road like that against a top 5 team, because you'll lose. Like, period. Like, it's that simple. And let's get on the defense. Let's talk about the defense. Because with Denzel Burke, people have been asking me, like, so what do we do differently defensively? First of all, I don't think any of us thought Denzel Burke would get toasted like that. No one thought Denzel Burke would get absolutely abused like that, one on one. Nobody did. I don't think the coaches did either. So it's tough for Jim Knowles, and this is not me defending Jim Knowles overall because we're going to get on Jim Knowles, but it's tough for a defensive coordinator, period, to execute a game plan that he's been working all week that was predicated upon your number one corner doing his job to be able to actually call the defense in the scheme he wants to call. So, so the question that begs is, okay, so what do you do to adjust in mid game? Well, if you have a scheme that you're doing all week that was predicated upon your number one corner being able to, at least keep your guy, in check to where he just not running wide open, then it's kind of tough to shuffle the deck because you said you're in a zone, you're running zone. People say, well, we need to get out of that zone and we need to blitz more. I'm not against blitzing more, but you still have to be very careful because Dylan Gabriel is not a bum. He has legs, and he can, if he beats you with the blitz, you're done. So you have to get home. So the plan is, okay, get pressure with the front four, drop back in the zone, keep everything in front of you. If he takes off running, then he won't kill you for a 50-yard run. But force him, put pressure on him to throw it in tight holes in the zone and hopefully get to him and get him down. We could not get pressure on him with the front four once again, which has been the challenge with this defense. So, as far as going forward, number one, they need to get with Denzel Burke. Tim Walton and Knowles and his defensive staff need to get with him and make sure he doesn't completely lose confidence. I think he's better than this. I think a part of it was not just, oh, he's faster. With a DB, there's technique. There is, knowing what you're seeing, not peeking in the backfield too much to where, because sometimes it doesn't matter. You could be just as fast as a guy, but if you're slow on the drop and you're peeking in the backfield and not doing what you should be doing with your man, it doesn't matter. You're going to get beat. So that stuff needs to be coached up. He's better than that. We're going to need him down the line. They don't want him to lose confidence. Yes, Matthews is very good. Sure, you can bench him and bring him in, but what is that? It's a difficult tightrope of a coaching staff to say, let's give our guy another chance to get out there and, prove himself, and then benching him. That's a tough dynamic in game. But honestly, and Funky, you said this earlier, our defense as a whole really wasn't bad overall from what I saw. It was Burke gave up a lot on his own. Just man-to-man coverage, him getting burnt was a big chunk of the yardage that was given up. We made some stops, but like JT Tuimoloau on that play where Dylan scored, you can't just be greedy and go after the running back. You have to read and do your job. And he didn't keep contained on Gabriel. He didn't make sure he didn't keep the ball. Touchdown. That's what happens. So it's just the defense obviously has to be better. Knowles has to coach them up better. They have to be able to make better adjustments in game. And again, nobody thought Burke was going to get absolutely destroyed like that. That just really crumbled everything, in my opinion. Go ahead, Funk. I got more to say, but I didn't want to keep going without you jumping in.
I mean, to talk about the defense, I mean, obviously, go back and watch. Look, not you have to watch. Go watch or look at the scoreboards of the national title games and the college football playoff games. In those games, the last couple of years, especially when like Bama, Clemson, Ohio State, during those years, and the Georgia, Bama games, it was an offensive shootout every single time. If you would ask some of those teams, hey, if we'll give the other team 31 points and you got to score more than that, will you take that? Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, they'll take that every single day of the week, majority of the time. They'll be like, damn, because it's a shootout. It's going to turn into a shootout. When you again go against a team that's as explosive as Oregon, at Oregon, it's going to turn into a shootout. When you have Ohio State players jumping off sides, setting us 5 yards back every time, that's going to be hard. I see some people in the chat being like, Ryan Day didn't set the run enough. He didn't do the run enough. You can't run the ball on 1st and 15. You just can't do that. Like, it's just that just sets yourself. You're so far back from the sticks at that point that it's asking for failure. Because if you run the ball and even get 5 yards, then you still set up a 2nd and long. And what are you going to do from there? So that's a passing down, and all those false starts that we had. It seemed like every play, I don't like that, or an illegal motion or whatever. Seemed like our tackles kept jumping off sides, that was just brutal. The crowd noise was loud, and we have to play at two of the hardest stadiums in the whole entire nation to play against. I mean, I would say Autzen Stadium and Penn State Stadium are two of the 4 hardest place stadiums to play. That and Husky Stadium in Washington and LSU Death Valley. I feel like those are the 4 hardest stadiums to play in the country, and we have to play in 2 of the 4 this year. So it's going to be stuff we have to fix, but we just got to admit as Buckeye fans that whenever we go on the road at one of these teams, we have about a 50% chance to lose. So if you play 2 or 3 of them, B. Moses, you can lose 1 or 2. And if you're lucky, you might lose 0. But that's just really hard to do. And And then when you put and then Oregon doesn't have to deal with all that stuff on the offensive side. So we get the best of Oregon's offense versus our defense, and our defense has no crowd noise to back us up. And sometimes stuff happens, but we only let up 10 points in the second half. B Moses, that's good enough to win the football game. That's good enough. Like I don't really care what anyone says. I don't care that we gave up all these yards because when it mattered most, our defense locked down and we stopped them. But
Yeah.
until the end,
Yeah.
until that one touchdown though. But like I mean, it's gonna happen.
Right. So only giving up 10 in the second half is characteristic of the D. They've adjusted in the second half and gotten
Yeah.
better. Again, it's tough to see that within the game because in our minds we see the splashiness of Burke getting killed or a big play, you know what I'm saying, or JTT not properly doing his job and touchdown. So yes, it was tough to see that, and I see people talking about D supposed to be elite. This is one thing I wanted to quickly bring up, and I was just contemplating this, talking about defenses in college football today, because I've been looking at the landscape outside of Texas, and y'all tell me in the chat if I'm missing something. Outside of Texas, who hasn't played a really good offense yet, what defense hasn't given up a ton of yards and points? And like I'm talking about elite team, like a top 10 team. I'm thinking about Oklahoma, not Oklahoma, but Bama, Georgia. Like it's even in our game. Okay, some fans are acting like we just got absolutely torched and Oregon just ate on D. They gave up almost 500 yards as well. Like we had their DBs on skates. We torched their defense. We just came up short by a point at their crib. My point is, I keep hearing about elite defenses, and this doesn't mean we don't need to get better, because we absolutely need to get better. And Knowles needs to coach these boys up and call a better game and make better adjustments. I 1000% agree with that. But this is just an overall arching thought I've been thinking about the college football landscape is with elite D. And even in the playoffs, with all the points, we haven't seen a LSU Alabama 10-7 final in years. It's just different now. So I'm just like, man, like the elite defenses, like what should we expect? So with that said, there's things that happened yesterday that should not happen and need to be dealt with and need to be changed, like the JTT play. Like that right there is a simple, easy fix, regardless of if defenses are elite or not. Things like that. But that's just kind of a question I want to throw out there, because it just seems like the top teams are still getting torched. And it's just like, with the college football landscape and, the rules being kind of slanted towards the offense, it's just something I'm noticing about defenses in general. But go ahead, Funk. I was going to switch gears, but go ahead and jump in if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to bring up. Let's go back and look at the other games that were played on the same exact day on Saturday that people seem to kind of forget. Number 4 Penn State, who right now are the happiest fan base on earth, went to overtime versus USC and won 33-30. Mississippi State versus Georgia. Mississippi State scored 31 points on Georgia. Georgia won 41-31. South Carolina lost to Alabama by 2 points, 25-27, at Alabama and at Georgia. Tennessee, who those fans wouldn't shut up for weeks. I'm so mad I wasn't here last week, so I couldn't just drill in on Tennessee, B Moses. But they beat one of the worst Florida teams of my lifetime, 17-23 in overtime. It took them overtime to beat this Florida team at home. It was in Knoxville. Then Ole Miss, who those fans also wouldn't shut the hell up for weeks, lost 26-29 in overtime versus LSU, who lost to that really at this point this really bad USC team. So the only team that could really be happy right now in my head is Texas for winning 34-3 versus Oklahoma. Because if we like it or not, if we were in Oregon shoes and the game was in Columbus and we beat Oregon 32-31, our fan base would still be unbearable. That's the thing. It would still be unbearable. It'd be, how do we let up this many points? We got so bailed out by the end, and all you'd see on social media is Ohio State gets bailed out. They're still frauds. They still suck. But so the only thing that is different in all these games is the logo of the school. So we got to just take a step back and realize, hey, it's not the end of the world. We're holding ourselves to a higher expectation because we're Ohio State. But in reality, with this new format and this new scheme, we can have a game like this, and it's totally fine. We dropped from 2 to 4. Like, are you serious? Like, we'd still be fine if it was the 4-team playoffs. We'd be totally fine. Even if it was the 2-team playoffs, we'd still have a wide open shot to make the final two. A wide open shot. If we win out, we'll be in the final two, 100 out of 100 times. So, this big overreaction about this game is just, yeah, I mean, it could have been a lot worse too. If you would have told me before the game we'd let up these 50-yard touchdowns, this 40-yard touchdown, then Denzel Burke would get 200 yards single-handedly dropped on him on it was like 9 catches for 192 yards or something. Like every time he was targeted, he got a ball caught on him, and then we lost a turnover battle 2-0. I would have said we lost 35-14. B Moses. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, wow, our team's that good where we really should have won even after making all those mistakes. Then
Stop
damn,
that. You're making excuses, Funky. You're a sunshine pumper. You're making
I'm
excuses.
a sunshine pumper. Yeah. I can't wait. Let's just say I can't wait for Happy Valley because Penn State doesn't have the offensive weapons for these explosive plays. They don't. They don't have the power. They don't. Their wide receivers threes won't, or their wide receiver ones don't match up well with our cornerback fours. But, and one thing I'll also add is I don't know why Jeremiah Smith is not playing. He's a star. And I know we have already 3 cornerbacks that are, in my opinion, better than him. But even if Denzel Burke is not struggling, I still feel like
Jermaine Matthews.
Oh, Jermaine Matthews. Why am I thinking of I've said someone else's name probably, but Jermaine Matthews. He's really, really, really good. So he should be playing anyways. So I think that's a mistake that he's not playing in general. But I agree that we need to be rotating him in, especially if guys are struggling. We got to get him in because he's a star and he should be playing right now and today.
Yeah,
Okay, I just saw someone say Matthews needs to start over Burke. Let's stop with that. Chill out with that. Absolutely not. Matthews is good. He's not Denzel Burke. I know Burke struggled yesterday, but that's ridiculous to say. But yeah, continue, B. Moses.
No, I hear you, man. Let's talk about the fans. All right, because I'm looking at this chat and it's the same rhetoric that I'm seeing on my Buckeye Sports Talk page on social media. They're setting up like a straw man argument, and what I mean by that is this. There's the notion that, if we criticize the team or call out something that needs to be fixed, then we're bad fans. That's not what we're saying. Clearly, you just heard what we was said about things that need to be changed on the defense, thing that needs to, to be corrected. Knowles needs to make better at game, and just like we just rattled off several things that did not please us that need to be fixed. Okay. There's nothing, and Stilly Matt in the chat is even trying to just explain to y'all, we're not saying everything is fine and nothing needs to be fixed. This team is perfectly good. Everything happened Saturday was great. That's not what we're saying, and you know it. You're being intellectually dishonest if you're claiming that after hearing what we just said on this podcast. That's not what we're saying. I'm talking to the fans who have these crazy over-the-top reactions about the team as if we're just utter garbage, as if, fire everybody, bench everybody. It's a wrap. We're not winning nothing. This team has no chance going forward. But I'm like, okay, but we lost by 1 point to the number 3 team in the nation at their place in a barn burner. Made a lot of mistakes, but they're correctable mistakes. We may see them again in the Big Ten title game in a neutral site with a chance to atone. We still got a lot of football to be played. Look at the rest of the landscape of college football and what they're doing. Bama, Georgia, all these teams. There's no team that just looks far superior to us. Oregon has one of the best offenses in the country, and they were at home. And we played really badly in a lot of ways, and we still was right there. You can't just ignore that. You can't excuse that. You can't just make it seem like we're making excuses. No, that's facts. And again, the people, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of what I'm saying was like the national media, college football nerds. Okay. They have no dog in the fight for Ohio State. That's clear. As an outside observer, I honestly don't have any bad takeaways for Ohio State in the loss to Oregon. That was an epic game from 2 great teams who both look ready to play. Not a single preseason goal for OSU is in jeopardy after that loss. Facts. Does that mean nothing needs to be corrected? Of course not. Coaches better coach up. They better coach better. Players better play better. However, the big picture that's rooted in facts and logic says we still have everything in front of us. All right, we're still a top 5 team. The AP voters only dropped us 2 spots. So y'all making it seem like because we're not panicking and we're not about to slit our wrists that we tripping. Like we're the ones who are delusional. No, I've seen too much college football. So if we go and piss down our leg in Happy Valley and get beat, then okay, it's a different discussion. That's a second loss. It's a different discussion. But that hasn't happened, has it? And Penn State doesn't have the weapons Oregon has. They just don't. And we've owned Penn State. Is that going to be easy going to Happy Valley? No,
Absolutely
we got to be ready.
no.
But you understand what I'm trying to say. So it just really irritates my soul when these fans, I see y'all. It's some of the same people who always come around, just like on y'all's Facebook or Instagram or something. You post something, and it's the same people that only show up to disagree with you. But when something good happens or positive, they're nowhere to be found, or they don't give the same energy. It's y'all. That's who I'm talking to, who are going way over the top with the takes. It's not those who just say things need to be fixed or changed. Of course they do. Ain't nobody saying that. So that's who we're talking to. So stop this little false narrative y'all keep putting out there. And we're going to get to some super chats in a minute. Can't stand y'all. Nah, I love y'all. It's all love. But I'm just saying, like, please stop it. Go ahead, Funk.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We're going to play Penn State here, and now it's 20 days. And before the season, my season prediction was 11-1 with a loss to Oregon. I thought we were going to 11-1, lose to Oregon, and then beat Oregon in the championship, in the Big Ten championship, and then win the national title. So as of right now, I think we're going to go into Penn State and beat them handily. I think we're going to beat them handily. And like you're saying, the same people that are now complaining, Ryan Day can't beat a top 5 opponent, blah, 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 blah. He can't do it. He won't do it. He's going to go there and beat Penn State. But the second he beats Penn State, the notion's not going to be, oh, Ryan Day got that chip off his shoulder, that monkey off his back. It's going to be Penn State sucks. Ryan Day can only beat Penn State, blah, 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 blah. Because people want to be negative about Ohio State. Again, if we go through every single team in the nation right now, and I had to pick a team to be a fan of for this year and been like, okay, this team, I wish I was this team because these fans are probably like the happiest or whatever. Like, this is the best team in the thing. The only team I'd pick over Ohio State is Texas. I wouldn't want to be a Georgia fan right now. I wouldn't want to be an Oregon fan right now because I think Oregon fans know if that game was at Ohio State or on a neutral field, they're losing. So I think, and they know that, and I think they clearly know that. I think they will admit that to you. I think they have an awesome environment, and they took advantage of it, and they won the game. And they're a really good team too. But I think there's a reason why they are so happy that they beat us. It's because they wish they were us. So if only fan base right now that I really think should be happier than us is Texas. Because Texas looks dominant and they're dominant. But again, Texas fans next week, I don't think they're going to be very happy. I think Texas goes in Athens and I think they lose. So, but I think just Ohio State fans, if you want to be this upset after a loss against Oregon, then we better be just as happy after a win at Penn State because we're going to beat Penn State. And I'll die on that horse. We're going to beat Penn State. Penn State cannot match up with us at all as well as Oregon can. So, and when we run the table and go 11-1 and we're going to beat Michigan this year, then that's why we're being positive because we know how good this Ohio State team is, and nothing that was showed yesterday, like you said, B. Moses, is making me think that we can't do that. It's not like we're Florida State right now. We're like, wow, every single thing that we were told in the offseason is a lie. No, every single thing we were told in the offseason has been very, very much true. It's if we play a clean game, no matter where we're at, we can play at Oregon, at Texas, at Alabama. If we play a clean game, we should be the favorites. But sometimes you don't play a clean game. That's not how college football works. So it's going to come down to inches, and sometimes it doesn't fall in our way. And that's what happened yesterday.
Very, very true. Great points and very true. I hope y'all heard that, man. Facts. So real quick, thank you, Mickey, for the 1999. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Greatly appreciate it. Also, we got eBuck 91 explain the loss time due to our having 12 guys. So, I mean, there's debate out there. Apparently, there's some video saying Lanning purposely had his guy go out there to steal away the seconds, to take the penalty, to steal the seconds. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but maybe so. That's all I got on that. Funk, you got anything on that before I move on to the other super chats?
I mean, I think that was smart. I think people should do that more often. Okay, if the time keeps running, that's ridiculous. The time should start. Then they have to change that rule. I think they will change that rule
Yeah, I
eventually.
agree.
I think they should change it where the team, basically the offense, should get a free play, and then whatever happens, if they accept the penalty, then it should go back to before the play started. And if they decline the penalty, then it should just be like nothing happened. I think that's what I think it should think. I think that's what the rule should be. But who knows? I think that's dumb, and I really think they did it on purpose. But hey, whatever.
Maybe so. Maybe so. All right, Larry Daniels, thanks for the 4.99. Appreciate you. It's a known fact that in the loss, all aspects of the game will go under the microscope, especially the bye
Yep.
week. This is a blessing in disguise. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like nobody likes to lose. We're not sitting up here like, yeah, we lost. Yay. No, like it sucks. It stings. And it doesn't. Nobody's more pissed off about this than the players and the coaches. They came back for a reason. They don't want to lose any games. So you best believe they're going to be on it. They're going to do everything they can do to try to improve, period. Let's go to the next one. Let me see. Yeah, let's go to the troll. 20 million and still can't go undefeated. You'll never be a 15-0 playoff champion like Michigan. Pathetic. Trash D. McCord wins that game. Thanks, troll. Thanks for the $5. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. You got until November 26th until the 90 days is up to respond to the NOA from the NCAA. Have fun with that. Enjoy your loss to Illinois and your 5-game impending losing streak. Thanks, buddy.
They have a $16 million roster too. So would you rather spend $20 million on Ohio State's roster, who loses 1 point, at Oregon's, whose roster is about $18 million, or have a $16 million roster who you lose to by multiple scores at Washington, who has a roster valuation of about $2 million? So pick or choose that one, B. Moses.
Exactly. Great point. Anybody who hasn't seen it, go look at the latest little updates of the money spent. Michigan spent 16 million on garbage to lose 6 games or more. So miss me with that. Maurice Clarinet, $10. Agree that path to the Natty is still clear, but this is a generational team. Thought we were undefeated, world beater, a la 2019. LSU said we are just great. Still wanted to go undefeated. I feel you. Look, Maurice Clarinet, love your name. Thanks for the 10. Yes, we all wanted to go undefeated, but I will gladly take a win over Scum and a Natty. That's the goal. Over just, we didn't go undefeated. I mean, to me, that is the least of my concerns in comparison to actually obtaining the goal. But I feel you. Undefeated is definitely would have been sweet. What else we got? Thanks for the super chat, y'all. They pouring in. Let me see. Again, Maurice Clarinet, blasphemy time. Thought Burke was CB1 preseason. Who do you take now between Will Johnson and Denzel Burke? I mean, honestly, bro, they both had some low points. Will Johnson has been burnt this year. Like, I mean, I don't know. Just for devil's out, I'll take Will Johnson. Sure. Like, I mean, I don't know. He seemed a little overrated as well this year to me. So I don't know. It's a long season to play. Let's see how Denzel adjusts. Let's see how that young man comes to play for the rest of the season. You know what I'm saying? He won't be the first DB to get torched, and he won't be the last. How does he respond? We know he's better than that. At least I do. I feel like he's more talented than that. He's better than that. He just needs to respond. What you think, Funk, before I move on?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We saw week 1 versus Fresno State that Will Johnson got burnt multiple times. Sometimes the quarterback connected to the wide receiver it was a big play, and other times the quarterback just barely missed them and they barely missed a touchdown. But how Will Johnson responded to that by creating the big play and pick sixes, and what really separated him from having a bad game is really stepping up and showing his stardom. So let's see how Denzel Burke responds, because he could right now he could tap out. It's really, really easy to tap out. There's no one on planet Earth right now who's probably sadder than Denzel Burke is. So it's just how he's going to respond versus Penn State, and how, even screw that, how he responds versus next time we play Oregon then I will give you my answer. Right now, I'm still hoping Denzel Burke. He's a 4th-year senior. This is probably the worst he's ever felt. So you can only imagine that he's going to come back and be the best he can every single day from now on out. So we'll see. Yeah. But right now, you got to give Will Johnson, right? I mean, just have to. So
Yeah, and he's looked good up until yesterday. And I don't know if he's going to see a
yeah,
better wide receiving core than Oregon the rest of the season. I'm just not sure. I don't think Texas has a better core. Georgia. I mean, so yeah. I mean, we'll see. We will see. All right, Tim Z, 1999. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I was at the game. If any fan wants to complain and go to the game and get off your rear end and root for Bucks like Oregon fans did, I've been to the
hmm
shoe and our fans weren't even close to Oregon. Let's go. So I'll slightly push back against that. I'll say this. I'll I think maybe Oregon may be more consistent. Like, on a sleepy noon game in Ohio Stadium, it can be real trash. But I've been to some big games. I've been to some when it comes to big games, the shoe is loud and they show up. So I think they kind of get knocked a little too harshly, but I will say the sleepy noon games are just that's where the downfall is. Oregon, they're more consistent, I think. And then of course their venue is smaller, but it's louder because of how it was built. And shout out to Oregon, man. They got a great atmosphere. We saw that before this game. I didn't need to see this game to be convinced. We saw it on TV. We heard about it, and I'm sure their fans were great in the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard. Okay, that was their Super Bowl, and their stadium is built for crowd noise. The shoe's old and not really built for crowd noise. So, but I mean, to an extent, we should take something from that, and we got to start treating these games and not take them for granted and treat them like our Super Bowl. Because I feel like sometimes our fans, it's like we almost like act like Bama fans to the extent where every game seems to be our Super Bowl, and we just gotta or when the Michigan comes in the shoe on whatever November 30th, we have to be ready to go. Cause that's gonna be a 9 a.m. game. But at this point, I don't really care. That shoe is better be rocking and pumping, just like Oregon was.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Hey, Jim Jackson, what's up, bro? What's up, man? Thanks for the 4.99. Thoughts on recruits Naeem Alford and Jakeem Stewart in the building? Did we lose them? Keep holding it down, y'all. Honestly, I don't think Alford has been teetering and spinning and everything for a while now. Like, I don't know if that game did it. I mean, honestly, I've been prepared for him to flip whenever, because it seems like, look, there's some kids who are more driven towards NIL, some who just want to stay home. I don't know, but he's been kind of on flip watch for a minute, and I don't know if that game is going to do it. Jakeem Stewart, I know he has other visits to take. I don't know. I don't like putting so much stock in just one game, because that buzz ends up wearing off, and you go to the next game, the next atmosphere. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
see. You want to say something fun about go to this before I
Totally.
go to this last? Oh, I
Yeah.
got more super chats coming in, but
Yeah.
we got to wrap up soon. But I'm gonna get to them quickly.
I'll be quick. The one answer to prove that wrong, or like I don't think this is. They could easily still go to Oregon and flip to Oregon. I'm not going to say they're not, but the one reason why I'll say that the game result doesn't matter is look at Deuce Knight. Look at Deuce
Yeah,
Knight and then come back to me.
true.
He went to like 7 Auburn games and they like barely won half of them versus like New Mexico State. And then I think they won like one of them. That was like a decent game. And they got their ass kicked in the other like couple games. And he still flipped to them. So if they really think the game results matter, then no, they really don't. And whatever, we'll play them again. And Jakeem Stewart's going in the shoe for the Michigan game. So he's still taking his visits and he'll see us on that day. So if you want Jakeem Stewart, then if you're at that game, then you better get off your butt and cheer and make the environment louder than Oregon was. So that's what I'll give you guys as a challenge.
Yeah, yeah. And hold on. Yeah, Maurice Clarinet, you hitting us up today. I appreciate you, brother. With the 5, Howard, JT, and Sawyer not studs. What is this? T-Sun sucks, but even our D-line is getting home some of the time. We need more QB pressure. We absolutely need more QB
Mm-hmm.
pressure. And this right
Absolutely.
here could be a whole podcast in itself. The debate. I was talking to my buddies earlier about this, about no scheme versus Johnson and what he wants his DNs to do. And even think about what Halfley, when we had Chase Young, and there's the whole cage rushing concept has come into play more with this team ever since we were getting toasted the first year, being over when Knowles was being overly aggressive and he kind of backed off of that. I don't know if it's the scheme holding them back from being the true, demons off the edge, or they're just not that good. Maybe it's a combination of both. Um, they haven't clearly lived up to the hype. I think they've been good at times, but not to the level of what we expected. I would agree with that, but hopefully these boys finish strong, man. I just want to win games, period. I don't care how many sacks they got. Just do your job to stop the offense, period. So you got anything for that? Is one last super chat.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. I truly, truly, truly don't understand how they're not getting pressure. It doesn't. Like, I know that we know they're good. It's, I mean, that's a one thing that I think is a Jim Knowles issue. I don't know why. I don't really know what he's doing. Again, I'm not a defensive coordinator, but I mean, I want to see our guys get home, and they're just not. And I don't know what it is. I'm not sure if it's a them issue or a Jim Knowles issue, but whatever it is, they got to get it fixed, and they just have to because sacks are so meaningful in this game. So yeah, that's all I can say on that one.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Schaefer Healthcare, thanks for the $9.99 with the parity in college football because the NIL, the transfer portal, and dimensional conference expansion is going to become harder and harder to finish undefeated. Yep. It is. It's just not reality. Look at Saban. Most of his teams were one-loss teams who won the ship. I mean, that's just in general. So, again, this is not to excuse the loss or say nothing's wrong and everything is sunshine and there's nothing to worry about and we don't have to work on anything. Nobody, literally nobody is saying that. What we are saying is we lost by 1 point on the road to a number 3 team in the country. We made some mistakes, and still, honestly, with the mistakes we made, it should have been a bigger loss. But we still have everything in front of us. We still have a really good team. And I choose to believe with our talent, our coaches, who I don't think are just all of a sudden just completely incapable of doing anything good, we still have a chance to obtain all our goals, all in front of us. Looking at the rest of the landscape, because that's what you have to do year to year, look at the rest of the teams in your competition to see what you have compared to them. And we are no less than any other team in the country outside of Texas right now until proven otherwise. So, yes, I'm choosing not to step on the ledge and be miserable as if we have no shot going forward. If you want to call me a sunshine pumper and excusing things for that take, then that's on you. Go ahead. But that's, to me, facts and logic and being reasonable is on my side, not yours, if you feel the opposite. Because some fans just want to be miserable. It doesn't matter what happens. They just love the misery. And if you don't basically wade in the misery waters 24/7, then you're just a head in the sand sunshine pumper. And that's just not, we not on that. Like, that's just kind of what it is. That's the summary of where I'm coming from as far as my outlook on things right now. So you got any last words, Funk?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, someone brought up that LSU, and they're like, we're not as dominant as LSU was in 2019. I want you to look back at LSU in their games in 2019. There was a 2-week stretch where they played at home versus Auburn and then at Alabama. And remember that Alabama, that year, that Alabama team wasn't all that good, right? That was the same Alabama team who beat Michigan in that bowl game. They weren't in the playoff game. They were a decent Alabama team. That wasn't like a superstar Alabama team. Again, they played Michigan in like the Citrus Bowl that year. So, and that Alabama team scored 41 points on them. They beat Alabama 46-41. Yeah. So talk about a shootout. Talk about a thing. And I feel like it's a very, very similar situation to this year's Buckeyes team. But instead of winning the shootout, we lost the shootout barely. But though that's just like our game, it came down to 1 or 2 plays. So, and then the week prior to that, LSU at home beat Auburn, or 2 weeks prior to that, sorry. LSU at home beat Auburn, who, again, that Auburn team that year wasn't very good. Beat that Auburn team 23-20. So they struggled at home versus Auburn. Then they went out and had a shootout with Bama where it came down to a few plays that went their way and they won the game barely. So, I mean, I can see it as eerie similar to this year's Ohio State team, but instead of those 1 or 2 plays going our way, it went Oregon's way. But besides for that, I mean, we're still right up there. And if we run the table, and I mean, again, if we win out, which again, it's almost impossible for us to predict that because that would be so impossibly hard for any team to do that. And this is going to be the hardest national championship year of all time, just purely off the number of games played. But if we do it, then I think we're a top 5 team of all time, and that still stands. And I still think that's very possible. It's just insane to predict that because again, you have to play 17, 18 games this year.
Yeah. Yep. You're right. This is going to be the toughest run ever, but we
Yeah,
have the depth to do it. We
we
just need
totally do.
to we need to coach better, play better, learn
Hmm.
from this early loss to an elite team. All right, not to bums. We didn't lose to Vanderbilt.
Huh.
This ain't Arkansas. Ain't Arkansas. So, um, so for some of y'all, and this is for those who are just super extreme, I would recommend y'all not watch the games going forward. Some of you fans, like, don't watch the Ohio State games because you're like, you know, your mental health meter is like is getting scary for some of y'all. I don't know if you can handle it. So maybe you should sit this one out. For some of y'all fans, I'm talking about on my Facebook page, on social media, who just can't seem to handle it. College football and the rigors of it. Maybe you should sit this one out. But I'm gonna keep watching and you know, hoping our guys can handle business. And I'm confident that they can. So yeah, we got Kirk and Nevada coming up in about 4 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and wrap. Really appreciate y'all for jumping on with us, especially after this game. Listen, man, let's go Bucks regardless. And I can't wait to get with y'all next Sunday. It's gonna be a bye week. And then of course, Scum, hopefully, most likely will be coming off an L versus Illinois. Because I still believe they're gonna be on a 4 or 5 game losing streak. All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all. Talk to y'all next week. Peace.
Go Bucks.